Good evening, everyone. How the devil are you? It's Friday. It's here once again. And, well, we know what happens on a Friday, don't we? Cheers. Ah, dear me. As I always say, depending upon where you define the start of the week as, that's the first one of the week. Let's do the customary roll call, see who we've got in this evening. I'm seeing right off the bat there are 73 of you in to kind of join me for a beer for the next hour or thereabouts. And we've got Steve Entwistle is the first in, and then Gordo Canuck. And then next in after that, we've got Wilson Jones and Peter Collins. And then there's Edwin Toonan and Vincent Brennan. A special thank you to Vincent Brennan. He knows why, and I'm sure I'll find out exactly what's going on with that tomorrow. Vincent's just emailed me today to tell me he sent me a little present, so I'm looking forward to that. Thank you very much. And then we've got Peter Collins and who else? We got Dr. Gomez, and then we've got scrolling down Robster Boy. And Robert Z or Z, and then Grandpa Joe, Wilson Jones, and scrolling down there's Anton, and who else we got? Let's have a quick look. Bridget Pollock, and Sometimes Dim Never Thin, and Dave Lewis. Saying he's grabbed an Epiphone Joan Jett earlier today for a brilliant price. So nice one, mate. Always satisfying when you get a good guitar at a good price, isn't it? Then we've got Mark Kerno and Phil B, and who else? We've got Lawrence Hastings, and scrolling down, Sean House is in the house. And then what else we got coming? We got Johnny Random. Was running the kids about. Time for a drink, indeed. It's Friday, and it's always 5 o'clock somewhere. And then we've got Ian Clark and James Hunt and PFY Guitars, Terry Day, and Chip Young is in. So is David Evans. And who else is coming in? We've got John Ross there. And let's have a look. And you're very talkative in the chat, aren't you? Waiting for me to turn up. I do apologise. I'm fashionably late. Brian Brazil. Brian is the chap who very, very generously donated this guitar, which I've got a series of videos coming up about in the coming weeks. But more on that as we get to them. Then who else we got? We got Brad Matthews and Simon M and Chris Ottewell and Cal B and the Rocco Cat, Frank Bolam. There's Marvellous Bloke and Balder. How are you, mate? Thomas Mulvaney is in. And who else we got? Mike Hurley and Michael Belliveau. And let's just scroll down a bit further. John Mack and Colin Falcon, Billy Paul, Jimmy James, and Watches and Guitars, the Essex Cat, and who else we got? William Forrest, Ron Wells, Pablo Hank, Farjon is there, and who else we got? Let's have a look. Nancy Davis is in, and so is Stuart Young and Andy Nisbet. And then we got Cy Rollinson, Das Schaff, OK Live, and Sam Milverton, and Johnny Love, and Michael Purcell, Cape Cod Dog, Ben Allmark, The Time Prophet, how are you, mate? Cylon Hybrid is there. Bands, Bikes, and Booze Reviews. Nothing wrong with that. Sounds like a very kind of natural Venn diagram, that, doesn't it? Bands, Bikes, and Booze. Then we've got Stephen Hedger, Stratboy 999, Murray Music, and Sean is there as well. Gothmog 9407, and then Peter Williamson, Hod 8, and Big Bokey, and Guitar Man, and Big P Morrison, and who else we got? We've got Scrolling down. Who else is in? I think that's pretty much it. And while I've been reading that, I've just noticed the viewing figures have gone from 73 to 143. So welcome one and all once again. Excuse me, I'm getting me words mixed up here. Welcome one and all once again to this merry little soiree that we have every Friday evening. In case you knew, then it kind of goes like this. I sit down and drink a beer and maybe another one and maybe another one and perhaps another one after that for the next hour or so. And I have no idea at this moment in time what I'm going to talk about. Actually, I do, because I've got a couple of things I want to raise with you tonight and just kind of bounce ideas off you. But first of all, usually round about this time of the evening, I tell you what's coming up on the channel this week. And starting on Sunday, and we've got the Battle of the Juniors on Sunday. You will recall that I had that Epiphone Les Paul Junior, and I also had a very similar Faisley Les Paul Junior style guitar that was about a third of the price of the Epiphone, and we're going to see how they compare on Sunday. Is the Epiphone 3 times the guitar? How basically, what is the Faisley a little bit of a giant killer? We shall see. That's Sunday's video. Then, okay, right. Monday's video. Now, I do like to give cryptic clues for what the Monday solo analysis is all about, and this one I'll be surprised if you get. I really will. Okay. The solo is played by a guitar player most often associated with Whitesnake, but it wasn't on a Whitesnake record. And which period of Whitesnake? Let's narrow it down a little bit. It was the early period of Whitesnake. So think of the one of the two guitarists who was synonymous with that sort of early lineup of Whitesnake, and think of a side project he did. Well, a little bit of a favour for a mate, where he played guitar on someone else's track. And the thing about this track was it also featured Francis Rossi playing electric sitar. Is anybody? No, not Bernie Marsden. Not Viv Campbell, or Adrian Vandenberg. No, it was who's the one Whitesnake guitarist that you've all kind of skirted round there, so far as I can see. Anyway, it's not Cannibal Corpse. No. I'll give you a clue. It was a chap from my neck of the woods up here in the northeast of England. Mickey Moody. Billy Paul's got it. Mickey Moody. So what song did Mickey Moody make a guest appearance on in, I think, 1970, about 1980, 81 or thereabouts? Might have been a little bit earlier. So yes, you've all got it now, Mickey Moody. So which hit single did he play on? And I'll give you a clue. The singer on this track later went on to be quite instrumental in the career of a certain Mr. Malmsteen. So there we go. We'll leave that one to stew for a bit. See if anybody gets that. Then on Tuesday, a little bit perhaps of a controversial video, but they're always the ones that seem to get me the most views and therefore the most revenue, and it is coming up to Christmas, so there is a little, that did factor into my calculations a little bit. On Tuesday, we're talking about 5 things that Leo Fender got wrong with the Stratocaster. Okay, 5 things that you thought that you think, well, yeah, but why did he do it like that? And well, you'll find out what they are on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, we're looking at basically a sort of pro technique for coming up with the perfect solo. This is, again, only Wednesday videos at the moment are in response to viewers' questions. So if you have any questions or queries or just, a quest for knowledge about anything remotely guitar or music related, and you think I'm the bloke to give you the answer, if you think I can offer any words of wisdom on related topics, that's often debatable, then get in touch. The email address jrguitartuition@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment on the videos, or you can use the contact form on my website, which is in the link in the description to all of these videos that I do. If you put it in the chat that's going past now, I can see kind of ticking away, then there's a good chance I'll miss it because I can't read it and talk at the same time. I'm not Rick Beato. I don't have like a whole army of little Santa's little helpers, you know, kind of keeping an eye on the chat for me. This is very much a one-man operation. So I do apologize if you put something in the chat and I don't see it. I'm not ignoring it. It's just that, you know, I can either sit and stare at the chat for an hour, or I can kind of blather away and talk. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, questions or queries rather about guitar or music related matters, then drop me a line. As I said, grguitartuition@gmail.com. And that's what Wednesday's video is all about. Basically, it's all about how to create the best solo that you can create for any piece of music. And it's a tried and tested technique, and I don't claim to have invented it, but I do use it all the time. Then that's Wednesday's video. Then on Thursday, thank you to the very generous Dr. Gomez 1, who is in the chat there. I have a rather fantastic little pedal to show you. There is a very, very famous overdrive pedal that will cost you an absolutely eye-watering, wallet-busting, you know, kind of amount. It'll cost you the same as a car, basically. And there are many, many different clones of it. You could say clones of it, if you know what I mean. And, well, I'm testing out one of those on Thursday. Thank you to Dr. Gomez, who sent it along to me, and it has been very much appreciated. Thank you, mate. So Billy Paul saying the Trem. Strat knob volume knob gets knocked easily. I've heard people say that, but it's never a problem I've ever had with a Strat. I don't know. It just must be something that I managed to have kind of not done that somehow or other. We've got Steve Lamb in there, I see. Nice to see you, mate. Time Prophet saying, accidentally emailed me once on the wrong email address. Let's see if we've got any idea about about that. I'm sorry, I'm just catching up on the chat there. Any ideas on this solo from Mickey Moody then? Well, it doesn't appear to be any in the chat. Yeah, Graham Bonnet, Mickey Moody and Francis Rossi, they all played on the same track. It was a tune called Night Games, and it also featured Don Airey on keyboards, I believe. And it was from I think Graham Bonnet's one of his early solo albums. I think the album was called Lineup, and it's a cracking little solo. It's very, very easy, and I'm conscious that I do a lot of stuff that's a bit sort of twiddly on the channel from, you know, a lot of the time when my fingers sort of start getting Tourette's, as I often say. So I wanted to do something a little bit accessible, but that was still, you know, a worthy solo to learn. And I've actually taken a little bit of artistic license with this one as well and put a little harmony part in. You know, so we shall see how that turns out. I'm seeing somebody there's asking me about Zoe's Place. When Zoe's Place auctions stuff, are they online? All I know is that Chloe from Zoe's Place, that can be a bit difficult to say after a few beers. Chloe from Zoe's Place tells me that they put it up on their eBay page, and you know, she doesn't do that. She just basically, she's an employee there, and she has to travel past the end of our road on her way to work. So she says, you know, she can sort of drop in and pick up anything that I'm going to be donating there. But I'm sure if you search on eBay for Zoe's Place as a user, then you will find the stuff there. I do know that some of the stuff that I donate to them, or that you guys donate to them, ends up being used as raffle prizes as well. And we've got a little bit of a prize draw coming up on this channel. Probably going to be in the new year at some point. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And all proceeds will, as I say, going to be going to Zoe's place. Yes, Mark Gowans is saying Cozy Powell played the drums on night games. Let's have a look, see what I've been missing in the chat. Let's have a look. Anton, now there's a question. Does the trem block make a difference on a Strat brass versus steel? And is it worth upgrading a classic vibe skinny block to full size? Yes and no. I had a couple of Strat style guitars where I put with that kind of skinny pot metal trem block on and upgraded to a steel Wilkinson trem with a big fat, kind of trem block, and it didn't make a massive amount of difference. Anybody that tells you it's going to make, a night and day difference is, well, perhaps exaggerating a little, shall we say. But it did make something of a difference. I did a video a while ago where I did a similar thing on a Yamaha Pacifica, and it made a noticeable but not night and day difference. It's arguable that you could make exactly the same difference in terms of sustain and what have you just by altering the settings on whatever you're plugged into. So, it depends, really. I mean, if you're going to spend 30 quid on or thereabouts on a Wilkinson, kind of trem that'll just drop straight in, then it's probably worth it because if you notice on a Wilkinson trem block, the holes aren't all in a straight line, they're staggered. And I did hear an interview with Trev Wilkinson where he explained why that ends up giving better tuning stability. And whether it does or not, whether it's that does it or not, I don't know. But I do notice that if you're going to be using a trem, then a Wilkinson kind of Strat replacement trem does seem to kind of come back in tune a little bit better. So that's worth it on its own, and it does give a tiny little kind of bit more fullness to the tone. I would say it's a very small difference, but it does make a difference. So there you go. Can't you put a locking nut on a guitar without the Floyd Rose? Says Michael Purcell. Well, the first Floyd Rose trems didn't have the fine tuners at the bridge, did they? I remember Tim Pierce talking about that, and I vaguely remember a local guitar shop up in this part of the world called Bandland. I remember going in there one day and seeing this weird kind of clamp at the top of the strings, and thinking, well, yeah, but how are you going to tune it? Because the first Floyds didn't have that fine tuners. A good analogy there would be the KKT locking tremolo, which was basically essentially like a kind of a normal kind of Strat style trem. Maybe I think it was a twin post trem at the bridge, and it didn't have it had the fine tuners, but the strings didn't lock there. That's the key thing. But it did lock up at the top end of the nut, and whether it was just because they tended to appear on cheap guitars like Encores and Marlin Sidewinders, horrible guitars, like that, which meant that the tuning stability was a bit ropey, or whether it was because there was something inherent about it needing to kind of lock at the bridge and the nut is debatable. But my thoughts on locking tremolos anyway. I think it's just they're not for me, and let's leave it at that. Pablo Bandland, I remember it well. Yes, when it was on Prince Regent Street, and yes, fantastic stuff. Let's have a look, see what else I've been missing while I've been. Big P Morrison, have you done a vid on Clapton's slide solo on Motherless Children, John? I haven't, but that is officially going on the list. Motherless Children Thank you so much. I have to kind of ration myself doing Clapton solos. Basically, I have to kind of think about Mark Knopfler, David Gilmour, and Gary Moore and Eric Clapton. I would say those four guitar players. I could easily just kind of go on a loop of just doing those four players. So I have to kind of ration myself and make sure I don't kind of just get too tunnel visioned on those guys, which I could easily do. So I think the last Clapton solo I did was the All Your Love solo from the Blues Breakers album. So at some point I shall be revisiting his catalogue, and Motherless Children is a fantastic one to put on the list. So thank you for that. Let's have a look, see what else we got. OK Live is saying the best trem I ever tried for a Strat is the Vega trem. If they're not surprised, I put them on all my Strats. Yeah, I think a Daryl Braun video on those. I mean, the going back to like yesterday's video where I was talking about my PRS, which is where is it? It's over there. I can't be bothered going and getting it. But the trem on that thing is pretty bomb-proof. The only other guitar I've got in here that has a trem is, if I go like that, you can see the Larry Carlton S7 on the wall behind me there. That's my go-to guitar whenever I need anything stratty. And yeah, the trem on that's pretty good. It'll do most things really well. It won't. You can dive bomb it, and you'll come back somewhere near in tune. But the PRS trem is just absolutely, you can give it all the abuse you want and it just comes back perfect every time. Michael Purcell is saying, have I done a slide solo on any Chris Rea songs? Ages ago, I did the slide solo from The Road to Hell. So that's up there somewhere. If you just kind of search John Robson, Chris Rea, Road to Hell, you'll find the video. I'd love to learn the solo from River of Tears. Beautiful song. Okay, let's put that on the list as well. River of Tears. Okay. There we go. So, Road to Hell is a classic, says Cy Rollinson. Indeed it is, mate. Let's have a look, see what else you've been talking about while I've been blethering away. Oh, see, we've got the Rockabilly train wrecking. How are you, mate? Glad to have you here. Jeff Healey one more time. Yes, I did. What did I do with Jeff Healey? I Need to Be Loved. It's the thing is, okay, the number of videos that I'm putting out. I do five videos on a live stream every week, so I have to, and I do notice that the solo and basically gear related videos do really well. Unboxing, get loads of views. Reviewing any kind of big name guitar, Fender, Gibson, PRS, loads of views. The moment I start trying to teach people guitar on YouTube, though, I get that little message from YouTube saying fewer than usual viewers are choosing to watch this video. So it's like I have to kind of think, well, okay, if I'm going to put a significant amount of time and effort into making this video, is it going to get the views? And so if I can get a solo video done and dusted and put together in a couple of hours on a morning, then fine. But if it's going to be a long solo with, where I'm going to have to sit and put a lot of time into actually learning it, as well as tapping it out and creating the backing track and all the rest of the stuff. You saw the video the other week where when I kind of showed you behind the scenes, then it does kind of get me thinking, am I going to get significant, enough of a return on this video, on my time and effort to put into this video? So where I'm going with this is a lot of Jeff Healey solos tend to be quite, he gets the bit between his teeth and he doesn't want to stop. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying I'm not going to do any more long solo videos, but I'm just saying it's something I have to kind of plan for, really. David Evans, have you seen East Coast guitars? They've got a BB King black semi-hollow, no F-holes on the website for 150. It looks gorgeous, and Anderton say they're a good budget guitar. Yeah, well, Anderton's isn't that Anderton's own in-house brand, East Coast guitars, as I recall. Excuse me, my wire's caught. I'll just unplug it. East Coast guitars, I think, aren't they? As I say, Anderton's own in-house brand. So. It's, I mean, good for them for promoting it and producing good quality guitars at affordable prices. But, I'm just saying, don't perhaps kind of take their assessment of the guitar that they are backing as being an impartial review. That's all I'm saying. Oh, okay, Balder. I didn't see that, mate. As I say, I do apologise. If I'm sat here blethering away answering a question and I get carried away and I get into my stride and I miss stuff that's going on in the chat, I'm not ignoring you. It's just, it's just I'm kind of talking and I can't read and talk at the same time. It's it's a bloke thing. I can't multitask. Wonder if you picked up my comment regarding potential beer curry meet next year. I'm always up for it, mate. The original one that we did back in 2021 was an absolute hoot. It was fantastic. And there was always going to be plans for another one, but he was the thing. That original meetup was, I think there were about a dozen or so people who actually made it out of 30 that said they were definitely going to come. So, yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? So when only kind of a dozen or so people say they're definitely going to come, it did make me wonder whether I was going to be stood at the bar like Billy No Mates, waiting for people who weren't going to turn up. So it's I don't want to be, kind of say, well, okay, it's. I don't want you to feel like that you're going to travel the length and the breadth of the country to come and have a beer with me. We can do that here. One thing I was, if enough people are up for it, let's do it. But all I'm saying is, I don't want to put pressure on people to feel like that, that it's a, because you know what it's like. It's like, when you get that card through the post where you think, oh, there's a wedding invitation. You think, well, that's that weekend knackered then, isn't it? It's like, a wedding to go to. Or is that just me? Am I just a miserable so-and-so? But, I don't want it to be something like, to turn into something like that, if you know what I mean. I was thinking about having a virtual meetup, like a Zoom kind of thing at some point. There was talk about doing the live stream on Zoom at one point, but I just got the feeling that would be it would turn into something, kind of a little bit more formal, where people are having to kind of, raise their hand to speak and something like that. It just felt like it would have been a bit more like a committee meeting than a night on the beer, but it might be an idea to do like a Zoom meetup. That's something I've been kind of thinking about. Ian Stewart is saying, hi, John, probably a daft question, but how does a wireless guitar connection work with pedals, etc.? Dead easy. All you do is, here's my little Lacato wireless system. There's the transmitter. That goes into the guitar. There's the receiver. That goes into wherever the other end of the lead would go to if you plugged in with a lead. So I just, when I'm playing here, let me show you my, actually, no, well, yeah, I will. I'll kind of grab the camera. There's my pedal board down there. And the wah is the first pedal in line. So the receiver on the wireless system just goes into the wah like that, and then there's just a lead coming out the other end of the pedal board going over into the Marshall that you can see over there. That's how it works. No kind of wizardry there at all. Let's see what else we've got. James Hunter saying live stream is perfect as is. Oh, Boulder, that's interesting. However, not all wireless will work with active pickups. Although I think David Evans has a set that does. What you're saying there, Time Profit? Because I have an Ibanez, I have to use a lead extender on my wireless system as the lead goes in the front of the guitar. So I've got a very short lead to the transmitter. Fair enough, mate. Yeah, there's always it's the thing, isn't it? You know, whenever you get sort of something set up and you think, right, I've got all the pieces of kit that I need, and you know, I'll get it all wired up and everything. There's always an adapter or an extender lead or something like that that you didn't budget for and that you have to kind of then go. It was the same in here, you know, when I set up two PCs, both with audio interfaces and two different speaker systems. You know, it was there was like I think, what was it, a jack to RCA lead that I needed and didn't have, and you know, I was stalled, so I had to, because there was nowhere around here where I could buy that lead. So like until it turned up from Amazon, I was kind of stalled basically. Let's have a look, see what you've been talking about. John Mack is saying, how's the melodic soloing course coming on or not? It's not at the moment. I have not got the time. It just there aren't enough hours in the day. It's parked. It's partially filmed and recorded. I've got all the music recorded for it, which is a big part of it. But just filming the videos and writing the script, and because I do sort of, well, I say a script, an A4 piece of paper with some bullet points scribbled on it is about as far as I get, you know, but just so I've got some sort of idea of what to talk about. It's on hold, but it will happen. What I'm hoping is that I shall be taking some time off over Christmas, and in that time off, I'm probably going to be working on that. So, you know, I'll do the usual sort of thing. There won't be any, unfortunately, there won't be any video output between Christmas and New Year. I'll probably, you know, do maybe a live stream over Christmas or something like that. But because, frankly, everybody's going to be watching all kind of James Bond films on TV or Netflix or whatever comedy DVDs or whatever they've got over Christmas, aren't they? So, who'd want to watch this over Christmas? Anton is saying Christmas Day live stream. I wouldn't bet against it, mate. I wouldn't bet against it. Let's have a look, see what we've been talking about. Let's have a look. Hi, John. Have you thought about what music you're having for your funeral? I'm having fanfare for the common man. Curtain time, great gig in the sky. Yeah, I don't really care, to be honest with you. I don't care. I won't be there. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's the one event in my existence, the one event that I will be kind of central to, that I won't actually be there or have any knowledge of. So, frankly, they can just put me out with the bins for all I care. Sell me to the local kebab shop, you know, whatever. It's of no importance to me. I just genuinely don't care, frankly. Dave Lewis is saying, excellent T-shirt, mate. Thank you, Dave. That's all down to you. Yes, indeed. Balder's having Samuel Barber Adagio for strings. Good enough for JFK. My old boy had Van McCoy, the Hustle. Funnily enough, I was listening to Van McCoy, The Hustle, this morning. I have a Spotify playlist of all of the embarrassing but somehow comforting pop tunes that I grew up listening to as a kid. Things like Where Do You Go To, My Lovely by Peter Sarstedt. And now he is a really embarrassing one that I wouldn't probably admit to if I hadn't had a beer. Telly Savalas's version of the old David Gates song, If. Anybody remember that? It is truly awful in every way, but it's just that kind of childhood memories kind of thing, you know. So it's all. What else is in there? Oh dear me. Ramalama Ding Dong by Rocky Sharp and the Replays. Anyone else remember that? Your funeral will be a missed opportunity to introduce people to Gary Moore. Well, if they haven't heard of him by then you know, what the heck. Wilson Jones says, I'll be watching on Christmas Day. I'm autistic and have no family or friends, so YouTube is what I do. Well, thank you very much, mate. Yeah, I will be doing, let's put that in the diary. Exact time to be confirmed, but I did it last year and it was a bit of a hoot. A Christmas Day live stream. So, yeah, let's just say that's going to go ahead this year. It'll be just the usual kind of thing. You know, I'll probably be sat here with like me kind of bar humbug Santa hat on, and you know, and we can swap stories about what Santa brought us, can't we? Afternoon Delight by the Starland Vocal Band, mate. That's who that was by. Will my funeral be on YouTube? Well, as I say, I have no control over that. But if somebody turns up with a smartphone, then, you know, let's have a look. What are you saying there, Colin? My dad was a huge Queen fan, so I had another one Bites the Dust played at his funeral in 2018. Everyone loved it. Good. On a light note, did you have a must-play song at your wedding, John? First dance or something like that? And did you pick it or the better half? Right. Okay. Well, what I did the music for the wedding because when Jackie and I first got together, she kind of like, oh, so what do you do then? Oh, I'm a guitar teacher, you know. All right. So do you like Eric Clapton? I really quite do like Eric Clapton. Thank you very much. And she said, oh, I love that song that he did about, you know, the tragic loss of his son. And I picked up the guitar and started playing Tears in Heaven. I said, what, you mean this one? And so I did like an arrangement of that for our wedding. For our wedding music, that was what was playing as we were kind of walking into the registry office, because it wasn't a church do, it was just registry office. So that was the thing. And as for like the first dance, we didn't bother with any of that nonsense. We just booked the restaurant at a rather swish local pub, and there was a buffet on, and and we put like a few quid behind the bar, and people just got drunk and had a good time. There wasn't a disco or anything like that. That's just even then we were a bit too long in the tooth for that kind of thing, I'm afraid. Oh, nice one, Mike. Nice to see you in. How are you? Hope you're doing famously well. You should do that version of Tears in Heaven for a video. Might do that. That's an idea. So yeah, that's an idea. I might just do that. I might sort of time it to kind of happen with the wedding anniversary. That'd be a good one, wouldn't it? That'll get me some good boy points with the boss. I don't know what John's funeral will be like, but I'm sure there'll be kebabs afterwards, or curry. Oh dear, Mike, sorry to hear you have a chest infection. Well, it's that time of year, isn't it? You know, it's I've been battling the sniffles a little bit myself lately, but I must be it's not an infection, it's allergies. I must be the only person in medical science that gets bloody hay fever in November. I just get these. I can feel it like when I go out, certain types of weather, like especially after it's been raining, which is quite a lot of the time up here. There's something in the air. I just get the sneezing and the watery eyes and the kind of, as Jackie quite often points out, she says, "You look like you want to take your eyeballs out and give them a good scrub." And to be honest with you, that's how it often is. So. Let's have a look. Cheers, mate. Well, I hope the same goes for you. Let's have a look. Hay fever John Channing gets hay fever in the winter as well. And the thing is, all of the supermarkets and all the pharmacies just assume that nobody gets hay fever after September, and you have to really hunt and dig around for the antihistamines. Where's Dougal? Dougal is currently downstairs, upside down, with his soon-to-be departed bits in the air. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. Yes, he's going in for that operation fairly soon. He's laid on his back with those bits in the air, and he's basically making like Chanel, because he keeps releasing a fragrance every now and again. It's a bit ripe downstairs. I don't know what he's been eating, but it's something is causing him to be let's see, he's releasing greenhouse gases. Let's have a look. Oh, plenty of other people are saying that their allergies have been terrible lately. Yes, I've had my flu shot, Michael, thank you very much. Got called in for it. Been called in for me, the kind of, are we allowed to talk about that other disease that was a bit dicey on YouTube for a while, where you couldn't talk about it? But the jab for that one as well. But I haven't fixed up that appointment yet. Has he had some curry? God, no. Talk about Dougal. For those who aren't in the know, Dougal is our new puppy. No, Dougal on curry, that would be catastrophic. Chanel number 2. Does Paul Rogers ever visit Redcar? Well, if he does, I've never seen him. He's a Middlesbrough lad, Paul Rogers, really. He used to live in a part of Middlesbrough where I spent some time, a part of Middlesbrough called Grove Hill, which all of the people on Teesside will have thought, oh, bloody hell, bandit country, and it was, Grove Hill. It was a bit dodgy, let's say. Peter Shields, I have a terrible allergy to wives. I've tried a couple of my own and one or two of some bugger else's. They always make me feel nauseous and watery. Oh, dear me, yes. That's going back to like I bet you've got some decent mother-in-law jokes from the 70s as well there, haven't you? Craig, I saw your vid where you mentioned wanting to review one of the Thomas Blue floor amp. You can borrow mine if you want. Craig, mate, you're a gentleman. We'll have a email conflab over the weekend. I think I've still got your email address, but just ping me an email anyway, and we'll sort something out. And thank you, Craig. Much appreciated, mate. I would love to check out one of Thomas Blue's amps. Bogart Whole Beast says, instead of antihistamines, drink more plain water. You see, I'm on the same page as who was it, W.C. Fields, about water, where he says, I don't drink water because it rusts pipes and fish copulate in it. So I just think that's Stuart, yes. I didn't see much mention of the fact that Dan McCafferty left us on the 8th of November. I have just finished recording for all of you wonderful Patreon supporters, many of whom are here tonight. I've just finished recording the December Patreon podcast, and I do kind of mention a little bit about the sad departure of Mr. McCafferty in that, and play one of his tunes as well. Another fantastic singer who I thought was criminally underrated, also left us last year, and there was absolutely nothing in the news about it. It was just a little bit of, that sort of thing where you go online and you click on a link and you think, oh yeah, I remember that, and you click on another link and you click, and before you know where you are, you've wasted half an hour kind of noodling around the internet, kind of not having a little bit of nostalgia fest. A chap called Bob Fish, who was the lead singer, or one of the lead singers, in a fantastic band, absolutely fantastic band called the Darts. I thought they were fantastic. If you like sort of 50s doo-wop, rockabilly, rock and roll sort of stuff, the Darts are a fantastic band, and they seem to have been airbrushed out of that sort of 70s nostalgia industry kind of picture of the 70s, but they were a fantastic band, and he passed away in 2021. I couldn't find out what of, but what a fantastic thing! Beautiful high falsetto voice. That he should have been an absolute megastar, and the usual kind of thing of getting kind of screwed over by management and so on and what have you. It never really happened for the band, much beyond their first few initial hits, and him in particular. I shall have to do a video about the Darts. It would be interesting to see if I could get in touch with someone who had a connection with them, or maybe do an interview with them. Yeah, let me write that down. The Darts. I'll look into that. So, what wasn't Big Den Hegarty in Darts? Yes, indeed, he was. Darts' version of Duke of Earl was fantastic. As a kid, I was in love with a female singer out of the Darts. Yes, Rita Ray, or I can't remember her real name, but that was just a stage name. And they sort of formed out of the ashes of an earlier, I mentioned this band earlier, an earlier version of Rocky Sharp and the Replays. And kind of went off on their own and ended up joining forces with the John Dummer Blues Band, if anybody else remembers them. Let's see what else we've been talking about. Let's just have a look. Our local classic rock FM station had a shouty vocalist segment in honor of Den Hegarty. Fair enough. Now, that's the thing. Den Hegarty was the guy in the Darts. Dan Hegarty was the bloke who played, what was he called? Grizzly Adams. Remember that TV show? Yeah. And I always used to get confused between the two. Let's have a look. Peter Shields is saying, by the way, I picked up a first act daily guitar from Nottingham on Tuesday, and I have to say it's excellent quality for very cheap money, worth checking out. I've heard a lot of stuff about those first act guitars. Malcolm Spillett saying my old mate Nick Pickett replaced John Dummer. Yeah, because the Darts were like a 9-piece band, and they did have a bit of a revolving door. They had several keyboard players. Den Hegarty left, and then I think came back again, and then left again. And even, what was he called? That guy, can't remember his name. The guy, the guitarist out of Mud, if anybody remembers Mud, but the guy with the big sort of afro perm and the earrings. He ended up being in the Darts for a while. Nancy Davis, I'm there ahead of you. Do a solo analysis of Tiger Feet by Mud. I did that ages ago as a Patreon exclusive solo. It's up there somewhere. Oh gosh, this is going back to when will it have been? It'll have been 2020. It'll have been a couple of years ago, at least. I did a video where it was all about how even kind of cheesy pop songs from the 70s often had great guitar solos in them. And one of the solos that I kind of referenced was the solo from Tiger Feet by Mud. And that month I did the Patreon solo analysis of it. Rob Davis, that's the guy. Thank you. What is the difference between fuzz and distortion? And Chris Otterwell saying, have I ever heard of MJP Turner guitars? I can't say I have, mate. Fuzz and distortion, well, in terms of the technical differences, I can't really tell you. I can tell you that I like distortion and I don't like fuzz. You've never heard me using fuzz on any of my recordings. And the November solo analysis was a bit of a reworking of an old Tony Peluso solo, who's the guy who played guitar with the Carpenters. I've done a video on it before, but I wasn't never really happy with it, so I redid it as a Patreon exclusive and then took that old video down. And that's got a horrible fuzz tone guitar sound on it, and so I did it with just a more natural kind of overdrive sound. But basically, I'm not entirely sure of the difference, but I like distortion. I don't like fuzz. Fuzz always sounds like you're trying to make the guitar sound like somebody playing a comb and paper or a kazoo or something. It's just not a nice, pleasant sound at all. It's raspy, and I just don't like it. But plenty of people do. So, each to their own. James White, that is a brilliant explanation, mate. Distortion sounds like an overloaded amp. Fuzz sounds like the speaker's tone, indeed. Vincent Brennan is saying, how do you rate Trevor Horn versus George Martin? Funnily enough, I've just done part one of what will be a two-part video on my favourite producers. And George Martin definitely features on the first part of that. So we shall see. It's like sometimes when I'm doing these top 5 videos, I think, well, how can you narrow it down to 5? And I have to do a part 2, and this is very, very definitely one of those. So you shall find out. Let's have a look. Rob Davis from Mud wrote the Big Kylie hit "Can't Get You Out My Head." Yeah, I'd heard that as well. And didn't you also do some some Sophie Ellis Bextor hit? I'll tell you who's quite the big. No, this is a real blast from the past. Who's a real big kind of producer and songwriter for many, many artists these days, or has been, a chap called Barry Green. Who's Barry Green? Well, if you're old enough, you may remember a bit of a teen idol from the 70s who had the stage name Barry Blue. Remember him? Dancing on a Saturday Night? Oh, dear me, yes, that is on my playlist that I was talking about earlier, of embarrassing 70s tunes that I grew up with. Yeah, he did that sort of same thing as Rob Davis from Mud. He kind of, I think you probably realise that there was a decent living to be had in, writing rather than, appearing on Top of the Pops every week. And, kind of having your management kind of rip off all your money, as was quite often the case back then. Let's have a look. See what else we were going on. Wasn't the tone speaker the beginning of distortion? Arguably so, yes. I mean, Many people claim to have been the ones that invented the ripped speaker cone, mainly David Davies out the Kinks claims that he did, but I think probably the earliest reference to that would be Link Wray with the Rumble, wouldn't it? Because he certainly did that. Let's have a look. Johnny Random just had an email. My wine hamper is on the way for Christmas. Have you heard Trevor Horn's reworking of the classical version of Owner of a Lonely Heart? Great song originally. I haven't, but that would be interesting. George Wallace saying Barry Blue was my first bought record. Yeah, that might be a thing to do, something, wouldn't it? First bought record. The first record I had bought for me, the first kind of song that I, as a really young boy, kind of had bought specifically for me, I think was by the Shadows. I think it was probably a Apache or something like that. I've told that story many times. But one of the first that I had bought for me was, and I'm ashamed to admit this, Ernie, the fastest milkman in the West. There we go, Benny Hill. Anyone else remember that? Time Prophet. I had that album, Shawaddy Waddy, Bright Lights. I'm just trying to think what was my first record that I actually bought with my own money, and I'd be lying if I said I could remember. I can remember it, what sort of time it was. It was probably a Shawaddy Waddy or a Darts kind of round about that sort of period. DJW was saying MOSFET amp, Sessionette, etc. Any thoughts on these classic amps? I had a Session amp, the Session Rocket 20, which is a very rare example of the breed. They were, most people remember the Sessionette 75, but I had the Session Rocket 20. Rocket as it was like ROCKETTE, Rocket 20, I think it was. And that was a great little amp. I mean, it was a 20-watt solid state amp that sort of responded very much like a valve amp. It had that sort of valvey sort of touch sensitivity to it. And I gigged with it. It was only a 20-watt amp, but it was very loud. It was like properly loud. It was loud enough to kind of do pub gigs with, certainly. And anything bigger than a pub gig, you tend to mic up anyway. And again, later, much later, that was about 1988. I had that, 88 through to about 90-ish. Had it for a couple of years. And then many years later, in the early 2000s, I had the Session Jerry Donahue pedal. If anyone remembers that, little kind of amp simulator in a box. That was a great little thing, actually. You did tend to need to use a compressor pedal with it, though, because if you didn't, there's my phone pinging. You didn't tend to, somebody's enrolled on one of my Udemy courses. If you didn't use a compressor pedal, it tended to kind of get a little bit spiky sounding. You needed to put that tiny little bit of compression on it, just even things out and made it sound a little bit more valvey. Craig, thank you very much, mate. You sent me an email regarding the amp. I will be in touch over the weekend, mate. It's I'm looking forward to that, actually. DJW saying completely agree. Rexomatic just finished the bio of Nick Lowe. So many great albums produced in late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, I mean, Nick. Again, another one of these people that's just kind of been there in the background, hasn't he? He was sort of in Rockpile and, his own solo career, and just worked with so many great people. It's like he's one of those guys that was people in the know knew about him and wanted to work with him. Anyway, chaps, this is how far down my final beer I am. So we can't be here much longer. In fact, let's call it a day there, because it's coming up to the top of the hour and there's a curry turning up around 10 past. So I've got to go and make sure I don't miss that, because if the doorbell rings and the wife's in her pajamas, she gets really cranky if she has to open the door in her pajamas. What's she doing with the door in her pajamas? I hear you say. Anyway, yes. Anyway, that's it for this week, folks. It's been a blast as always. I never know what I'm going to talk about for these live streams, but you always come to me rescue and furnish me with plenty of stuff to exercise me jawbone with. Thank you once again for turning up, and I'll keep on doing it till you're sick of me. But for now, time, gentlemen, please.